G'day there, it's time for some more Yellow Turbans Abridged. Last time we defeated Kong Rong and secured the north. We ended our war with the Duchy of Wu in order to instead fight a war with Yuan Shu and Gong Shu. Things in the south are a bit hit and miss because I couldn't be bothered to fight the enemy, but against Yuan Shu in the centre, things are going great. The man himself is dead and we're on the offensive. We've got our main group with Gong Du going through Luoyang as we saw last time, and we've also got these other troops who are going towards Shangyang, and my hope is that there will be nothing there since we know Gong Shu has committed a lot of troops very far away down in the south, so we'll sneak in and start doing some damage. Annoyingly, this route here is really slow, but it's going to happen eventually. Meanwhile, down south I'm going to face the consequences of not bothering to kill Huang Zhong last time. This was the army that attacked me and I just thought, no, there's no particular advantage to doing it, and I was way too lazy to actually do it. And now they're attacking one of my towns. However, everything's kind of paying off now because this battle is going to be really easy. We have towers on our side and plenty of troops inside the town. Plus, the enemy didn't put that much pressure on us. A lot of their men just walked off at the start of the fight, so they're only attacking from the south here. I'm not using the replay for this battle, and this is another case where you'll see why in a second. One mistake I made early on is not bothering to defend one of the entrances on the south side of town, but we're making up for that with the novel tactic of getting our terrible peasant warrior troops and just having them run out towards the enemy army. I think, as I've mentioned before, the proper way to fight a siege defense in this game is to put your whole army outside the town, but you can get a similar effect with one or two units. They go out there and the enemy just fight them before they reach the town, and it doesn't matter if you lose because your towers allow you to win. Here's that entrance I didn't bother defending, and here's me noticing that I've got no troops there, so I'm going to turn those archers off skirmish mode and rush up. Luckily, with my peasants there in the background, the enemy didn't attack very heavily. And now I'm going to cut this story short. Here's where we are a couple of minutes later. Everything that attacked from the north just got absolutely obliterated. We took barely any losses whatsoever, and things are just going very well. We've killed like 2/3 of the enemy army. However, they do still have that group that didn't attack earlier just walking around. So after I'm done clearing up all the mess, I'm just waiting for those guys to attack, and as you can see, they've now walked 180 degrees around the settlement and are right on the other side. And all I'm doing is sitting here with the battle on fast motion, trying to move my troops ready to receive them whenever they do choose to attack. This got quite boring, and I decided to send some archers out to try and aggro the enemy onto the towers. It only worked for one unit, unfortunately, but that's better than nothing. So here we see some cav rush up and get annihilated, both by the towers and by my regular archers. Well, perhaps not really by the regular archers. The arrows hit the cav and don't really do anything as usual, but tower bots get that sweet one-hit kill. And as I've mentioned, I think the towers here in towns are more powerful than the towers you get for cities, so it really does annihilate cav. And then, another age later, the rest of the group finally turns into attackers, and funnily enough, it attacked the entrance next to the one it actually deployed by. What I think happened here is the AI decided to make a 30-degree shift or something in its attack direction, but it calculated it the wrong way around the circle and did a 330-degree shift instead. So that wasted my time, but when they finally did attack, they just died instantly like the rest of their men. We've got archers, we've got towers, and our troops are quite elite because we have a leveled up garrison building here, so really there was just no fighting like with the rest of the group, and that's the end of that. Heroic victory, easy peasy. And I was very pleased with this because it ended up vindicating my decision to be lazy and not fight these guys with my main army in a field battle, because we pretty much took them out for free in a fight that, if it wasn't for that AI glitch, would have been much faster than doing a field battle as well. There was only a minute or so of combat at the start before we just sat down and waited for the rest of the battle to finish. So that's good. His army's half dead and he probably won't do that much to us now. After that, we got some interesting political news relevant to this war. Gong Shu actually breaks her vassalage to Yuan Shu, or not Yuan Shu, the Duchy of Zhong, whoever's controlling the Duchy of Zhong right now. I guess the break comes because Yuan Shu is dead, and that changes up the politics in some way, or changes up the faction relationships. So this is great news, because finally this combination of factions that has caused us so much trouble has been separated. We can now fight just one of them if we want to. In this case though, I'm actually going to keep fighting both at the same time, because we kind of have them both on the back foot. Even though the enemy could take things in the south, it doesn't really look like they're going to, and in the meantime we're ready to storm into their territory and start doing some damage. So actually this breakup doesn't really have much effect on my plan. We're just going to carry on with both wars at the same time anyway. At the start of the next turn, we get some interesting political events. Cao Cao's faction has been destroyed. That's a shame, because I think he might have actually liked us for some reason. Kong Rong has died, I presume, and been replaced by someone else, and that someone else immediately declares war on us, thanks to the Duchy of Zhong asking them to. Thank you very much for that. Also, Da Chao, who is supposed to be one of the most beautiful women of the era, has taken over the bandit faction to our north somehow. She's supposed to be Sun Ce's wife or something, but I guess he messed up on that, and now she's gone to fight with the bandits and taken over. She's living her best life. Meanwhile, we're going to be going after the Duchy of Zhong. We've got one attack coming in from the north here, and Gong Du is going to be coming in from the west. I took a slightly different route from the Luoyang trade port to get into the Duchy of Zhong. And now we're immediately laying siege to some town. There's nothing in it, but we can't attack right now, so we'll have to wait on that one. At the same time, my push through the valley at Hanzhong into Shangyong is now working out. We've got a lumberyard here. We'll just auto-resolve them to death. Not the best auto-resolve, but as ever, doesn't really matter. We'll take it, replenish, and carry on. We reach the start of the next turn without anything particularly interesting happening, and Gong Du can now complete that siege attack of the city at Nanyang. The problem we're going to face here is that we're actually out of food, since we're giving most of our food to the Duchy of Wu at the moment in order to maintain the peace deal. And taking cities reduces your food by quite a lot in some cases, like that one we just took is a small regional city, which is actually bigger than a large city in a confusing twist. Regional city is like a next tier. Basically, they're taking all our food because now we're responsible for it. And we're not really going to be making that any better, because I'm also setting out to take the city in Shangyong with the forces who eventually made their way through the mountains. And the guys who just took that lumberyard can now move on to reinforce that. So we'll have yet another attack vector into our enemy's territory, mostly focusing on Gonglan Shu with that group though. Also, on the Gonglan Shu topic, I'm going after Huang Zhong, who is actually laying siege to a silk trader down there, but he's not going to be there for long, as we'll see. I got a trade deal with the Duchy of Wu to further cement our not being at war status and to get some money, because we're still losing cash all over the place. That'll help out a little bit. In Gonglan Shu's turn, Huang Zhong runs away from that silk trader, and we see another enemy army, the one that was hanging out at the Zangke tea house, moving into our territory. That's pretty annoying, because Huang Zhong will never be caught if he remains in march stance. We'll have another Le Bu situation, and the other army isn't going to be opposed, so it may well take some of our lands. Up near the Luoyang lumberyard, we have a couple of developments. There are two armies coming to attack us from the Duchy of Song, not to be confused with the Duchy of Zhong. I'm not quite sure what the Duchy of Song even is. This is our first time seeing them, but we're at war with them for some reason, and they've finally shown up. But we're not going to be at war with Zhao Yumin. Not sure who this is, but this is actually, as it turns out, the faction right next to me in Luoyang's main city. It used to be called something else, it must have changed recently. But yes, so that's actually a quite good peace deal to have randomly taken, because now Luoyang is going to be easier to defend against this Duchy of Song invasion. Gong Du and the main force are still going after the Duchy of Zhong, and here we actually encounter some resistance. Looks like they've got their main army defending this next settlement down the road. So, since that's quite hard to beat when the garrison is factored in as well, I'm going to set an ambush on the road and see if the enemy go to try and re-besiege or retake their own city. Going to do something similar with the Duchy of Song situation. They're clearly going to come up this road through the trees towards the lumberyard if they want to attack, so we'll slap down an ambush out there. I was surprised in that I couldn't find a good place to put an ambush. The chance seemed to be quite low compared to like open ground and random points we've used before, but anyway, it doesn't matter too much. Also, that siege at the Shangyong city is now complete after the one turn of waiting. In we move. So that's another city taken, and our food will really be out the window. It doesn't cause attrition or anything like that, like in previous games. I think you have a reserve of food in each city, and only if it runs out do you take attrition. So you can have negative food for a while before it's a problem, and we'll sort it out eventually. Now Huang Zhong is taking attrition in our territory, and he's far from his own borders. So my new plan was to just ignore him and rush north to go after the other army, which indeed is just going into our territory unopposed. As for the Duchy of Song invasion, everything goes to plan. They go right up the road and get ambushed. I accidentally was in range of the lumberyard's garrison, so I actually have some reinforcements for this ambush battle. But I'm not going to use them because I think doing a night attack is the better choice. Those extra numbers will allow us to do more rear attacks, but rear attacks reduce enemy morale by like 7 or something as I recall, and night attacks reduce it by 15 or something like that. So taking a night attack is still more advantageous unless you have a massive reinforcement army or something. As usual, the fight itself will just be a quick one, picking all the right targets to attack with my own units. In particular, they had one elite unit of spears, who I just attacked with archers and killed most of them before they did anything, so that was all well and good. Our own spears are all over the enemy's camp, and we've got lots of swordsmen in this army, who are less useful because they're just not very powerful in general, but they've got the enemy's heavy infantry locked down, or medium infantry, the spear guards are technically. At the front of the column, our heavy spears are attacking the enemy's officers, and I've got some horse archers standing just in front of the retreat point, because the enemy were actually very close to the retreat point, although I don't think the AI is programmed to try and escape ambushes, it's more of a player feature. Anyway, the back of their column is just gone, the middle of the column is going, and of course that will all just spiral out of control and we'll win. The only other thing I wanted to say about this battle is that I was watching the fight between our swords and the enemy's spear guards, and I thought actually the animations in general, holistically, look quite good here. This seems like a big improvement on, say, Rome 2's mass combat, which is very nice because earlier in this very campaign we've seen it be much worse, so maybe some patching has been going on. It still has big issues when units start to move. I thought they solved that problem in Warhammer, but they have regressed. Indeed, the problem was actually solved in the original Rome Total War, but at some point moving attack animations went out the window. Anyway, while I was focusing on that, the rest of the battle appears to have been won, so that's going to be the end of things here. The enemy army's still a little bit alive, and of course they have another army just behind it, so it's by no means the end of the story, but that's a very good start to stopping this invasion. We've captured their commander. I considered giving him back because he seems pretty unremarkable and he doesn't have anything for us to steal, but then I just clicked on the kill button anyway, and that's the end of his story. I am though going to be nice and give them back some of their regular captive troops. I thought their second army might just attack me now that I'm exposed, but it just links up with the defeated remnants of the first army and stands there for now. At the start of the next turn, I'm now moving part of the army in Shangyong to double back and go to attack that little bit of bar that I couldn't be bothered to take earlier because the garrison was too big. Gong Du's ambush failed, obviously. However, the enemy army that was nearby isn't there anymore. This is pretty risky because the AI could have been doing an ambush against me in exactly the same way by just ambushing in the forests next to the town. In this case though, they weren't, so we take the place. The jade mine it actually is. Very nice. It actually gets me an achievement for owning all of the jade mines. How powerful I must be. I choose not to take on an extra officer there, which was the wrong choice. We actually don't have many officers left because they're all in the field doing various things, and I am going to need some more pretty soon, as we'll see. As for grand strategy, it's gotten to the point when we're going to have more border gore if we take more territory from the Duchy of Zhong. It would be better for us to go southwest and attack just Gonglan Shu, and because the factions are separate, that's actually a legitimate option. Both duchies of Zhong and Song want peace with us, so it's time for us to do some diplomacy. We can see the Duchy of Song is in the top right of the map, and I guess that's why we've never seen them before, but we'll just keep that in mind. Since the duchies are the more powerful factions, we get peace and a ton of money from them, and it's the same thing with the Duchy of Zhong. However, because we've slammed them so hard recently, I also get some territory in the peace negotiations, so I steal some random piece of farmland off them as well. It's not the best territory, it's out here on the right, so a real border gore situation that just puts us bordering so many other factions, it'll probably just provoke them into war, so much contested commandery stuff going on here. But it's nice to have the farmland while we do still have it. You might notice my food is back on track now, and that's just because our tribute to the Duchy of Wu has worn off, so we're getting more money and food at the moment. Anyway, it means that to our north, to our east and to our southeast, everything's fine, and we can now focus on just going southwest with the armies in this area. We're going to really go hard on Gong Langshu, just all of our armies from all directions at once, basically. There was one little aside though. I actually did get a rebellion back in Anding. I mentioned before public orders becoming an issue, and it has now gotten to the point where places are starting to rebel. However, just killing them is easy enough. I am starting to recover public order in some places after having had low taxes for a long time. We still don't have a permanent solution because I need to change all my buildings up, and we don't have the cash or the income to sort that out. But that will get solved eventually, as we'll see. That invasion from Gong Langshu does successfully reach some of my territory, and they can easily take it, so we'll let them have it. Fair play to them, they're just doing the same thing to me that I'm doing to them, but I'm doing it to them much harder, and I don't think this is going to pay off for them in the long run. So they'll take that one territory. We'll already have an army on the way to counterattack. Huang Zhong's just dying as he wanders around in our land, so that's all good. But speaking of dying, some very important news comes up here. I have to replace a dead general, and in the bottom left we get a pretty strong clue as to who this is actually going to be. Our faction leader, our glorious leader, Gong has died of natural causes. Have to hack through some random news here to get to it. In this news, we actually learn that I've been given a mission. I completed some mission to build a building and got some money. And the next mission is have 3 commanderies. Well, I've got 12, so looks like we're about to make a ton of money, which is just what I need. That's good news. Jiang Kai succeeds our faction. Gong Du is dead. Here's the real news. He died of natural causes at the ripe old age of 60. Probably really annoyed that his dream of a velvet pacifist revolution didn't happen, but at least the military revolution appears to be working so far. We've finally made some progress. I'm glad that he lived to see us break out of the constant cycle of being stuck up against the edge of the map. We're actually getting somewhere now. We're making progress in the game. We've got momentum. And next on the chopping block is none other than Zhuge Liang himself, one of the legendary heroes of the time, who is holed up in this city fighting for Gong Langshu. That's not going to go very well for him. He doesn't have any strategies to get out of this one. We'll just lay siege to him. Not an ideal balance part because there's tons of stuff in there, but we are going to be able to bring over the second army by the time the siege attack is actually ready, so that's no problem at all for us really. But yes, RIP Gong Du, you've taken us very far as a faction leader. Hopefully Jiang Kai, aka some guy, will be able to do just as good a job. Also, our faction is now renamed, of course, so we are no longer playing as Gong Du. I'm going to have to change the titles of the video or something. Anyway, my force that I sent to take that random bar farmland has succeeded after a Pyrrhic victory, and my army in the south is now moving up to retake that lumber yard and try to re-secure our territory. I thought I'd look at the map here to just look at the border and compare it to how it used to be in the past. It's much shorter and much easier to understand, and much less hostile. If we didn't have that exclave down there, which we'll need to re-secure, things would be looking pretty okay actually, with, I don't know, at least 2/3 of our total border up against impassable terrain. We've got quite a secure little empire. Now this clip is in the same turn, but with one difference. Look at my cash. Now I suddenly have loads of money, so what changed? Well, basically, while not filming, I went around and changed everyone's equipment and ancillaries and things like that, in order to focus on reducing our corruption stat, because some items reduce corruption when people have them and certain skills and things like that. Then I increased the tax rate to normal again, and that's why I suddenly have tons of money coming in, and that's going to be very useful. But actually, even that's going to pale in comparison to what happens next to our beautiful little kingdom. We reach the point in the game when it declares the Han Empire is officially dead now. Everyone's just forgotten about restoring it after our antics. And now the Three Kingdoms era is beginning. There are going to be at least 3 kingdoms and several other smaller ones hanging around. So yes, the factions that were the duchies, I think, get converted into the 3 kingdoms. I'm guessing what happens is it picks the 3 biggest factions and goes, you're now the 3 kingdoms. But in this case, the Duchy of Zhong has been cut down to size so much that it actually doesn't get to be one of the next kingdoms and someone else gets it. But look there, we get tons of money due to being issued and completing a mission at the same time, which gives us 20k. And for some reason our income is much higher after that story event, not really sure why. I think it might be because when you reach the ascended state, the Imperium level, that triggers the three kingdoms forming. You also get a corruption debuff, so that's why we're rich. And here you can see I'm just taking a look at the three kingdoms. The Kingdom of Wu is one, obviously, the Kingdom of Song up in the top right is another, and whoever this guy is somehow cheekily became the third one. It's the guy who's right next to us and apparently took over from Da Chao recently. So might have to watch out for him. And as it says here, we actually now have a chance to win the campaign. We have a victory objective at last. If we capture the 3 capitals of the 3 other kingdoms, the game will be won. So now we actually know what we're supposed to be doing, which is handy. The only problem is that looking at where these 3 capitals are, taking them is going to necessitate capturing about 75% of the map. So there is by no means going to be a short victory objective here, which is what I usually prefer. I'd probably just leave the campaign right here and say I'll probably win. But for the sake of this, we will see if it's actually possible from here and keep playing. You can see I've already recruited some more guys down in the south using our newly enhanced income. And with them I discovered that interestingly, Huang Zhong is no longer around in that army which was fleeing from our territory. I thought maybe he died of old age, but we'll see something else in a second that suggests actually he might have just been spirited away. In the meantime, I'm still advancing on that lumberyard, and the enemy army that took it originally doesn't appear to be there anymore, so we'll just advance cautiously there. And here is the siege that did have Zhuge Liang on the inside, but now he's not there anymore. I think maybe going into the Three Kingdoms era might have teleported various important characters to different places or something, so they're just not there. Or maybe they both died of old age at the same time, I don't know. Zhuge Liang's not that old. Anyway, we took the city, and now we still have big momentum to go on and finish off Gong Lang Shu. And after that, we're going to plan to do this endgame in the worst possible way by taking on the most powerful of the Three Kingdoms, the Kingdom of Wu, first. So we'll see how that goes in the next part.